welcome, folks, to the Pirate Round. Me hosts have their mouths full of rum here, so I'd be
crackers.
really saying welcome today.
Eating Polly's crackers.
Eating Polly's crackers and drinking their rum. So, yeah. All right, I'll turn it over to you, here, Captain Scuttlepus.
Hello, folks. Just polishing off a dram here.
We be raw and unfiltered.
That's right.
We've been having technical difficulties today.
Now, welcome to this episode of the Pirate Round. I be Captain Scottopus here. That be the Scottish Raven. And this be Captain Turner, who's come to visit us up from the Southern Ocean, bringing legends and lore and many fine drinks and victuals for us to try. But as we start out every episode of the Pirate Round, we start out with a toast. And this toast is fine Jamaican Mountain Red, single pot distilled rum, poured from the thrice cursed crystal skull, which only any sane man cannot look upon. But as the lady we had here a few weeks ago said, I am no sane man. Obviously she be a lady. So, we say to you now, welcome to this episode of the Pirate Round. Yar har.
Yar har.
Boy, that burns like the devil's arse. Well now, Captain Turner, I know you've been sailing many places in here and back and forth. And I see you've got a fine collection of bottles. What have you brought us today?
Well, I thought it'd be interesting today. As you know, on your long travels at sea, your water sometimes, you put it in a wooden keg and it gets sloshed around for weeks, months, and it starts to get a little bit, shall we say, green tasting.
Gar.
And the crew starts to grumble and moan, and then you have to be starting to add your rum to the water to sweeten it a bit and make it a little bit more palatable.
Gar.
Well, I thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about how the pirates would take their rum and drink their water and the different libations that they would enjoy.
Sounds good.
So a lot of people associate pirates with a drink called grog, and grog was basically just a mixture of water and rum. And it really didn't have a whole lot to do with pirates. That'd be one of the modern day misunderstandings. Grog did have a lot to do with sailors. There was, especially in the English Navy, sailors would get their daily rations of rum. And what sometimes would happen was that these sailors would hold on to their daily rations of rum until they got enough that they could get roaring drunk on it. And that always caused a problem with morale, oh yes. So there was an admiral named Edward Vernon. Now, Edward Vernon, he didn't like this very much. And he was always wearing a fine officer's coat made of a material called grog rum. And so he got himself the nickname Old Grog, is what they called him. And Old Grog, one day he decided that he would make a new rule on his ship, that all of the rum rations would be mixed with water. And that way, nobody could drink enough of it to get roaring drunk, because the water would dilute it sufficiently that you could get a little tipsy, but you wouldn't be roaring drunk on it.
There you go.
And the sailors, not all of them really were keen on this, but they didn't have much choice. And so they took to calling this mixture of his grog, nicknaming it after Old Grog. This was Grog's drink.
All right.
So I thought it'd be interesting to give that a try and see what it tastes like today.
Well, there you go.
Now, kind of a take on that word grog. People who play war games are called grog nerds.
Are they?
Yes.
Huh. Well, that's where the term groggy comes from. When I feel kind of groggy.
Right.
It's dizzy, drunk, disoriented. I feel sort of groggy.
Exactly. And it all comes from a fabric, which was kind of like what would you call with the lines in it, corduroy. Something similar to corduroy would be grog rum.
Well, there you go. Well, Captain Turner, we've got your go-to drink here.
Right, this be a nice drink that I like to get because it'd not be too expensive, but it'd not be the bottom of the barrel. It's just fine for mixing. It doesn't have any flavors.
It's like a plantation rum, which is a good
Plantation rum, aged 5 days.
5-year rum.
5-year-old rum.
5-year plantation.
I hope it doesn't throw tantrums like a 5-year-old.
No, I hope not.
I hope not either.
It'd be good enough you could sip it, but not a fine sipping rum, but it has a nice flavor.
Well,
Yeah.
rums are nice.
We've had plantation
Barbados
rums, and it's a
rum.
good rum.
Nice.
That's a good. Yeah, you can smell the wood in there,
So one thing I don't have is a a container to mix this in. I didn't think ahead. I should have had a glass or something.
Mix it in my glass.
All right, we can do that.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, and I do have this measuring glass here.
Okay,
though,
well,
for
measure
measuring
me
it
out to find one.
So grog.
If you hold on a moment, I think I'll go get one from the galley.
Aye, that'd be
Hold
fine,
on a
right,
moment.
that'd be
So you
fine.
just keep talking, and
Just keep
I shall
talking.
be back here.
You know, the thing about plantation rum, folks, and I'm quite pleased with their products. They're quite good. Plantation rum, you know, it's come from Barbados. And
Aye,
it's been...
this particular one. Now they do have different rums from different places too.
Oh, they do? I thought
Aye.
most of it came from Barbados.
No, they have Jamaican rums and all sorts of rums.
You're right, because upstairs in our rum locker we've got plantation rum that comes from South America.
Aye, that'd
Yeah,
be true. They
Chilean.
they have a
Not
very
Chilean. Colombian.
extensive lineup of different ages and different locations of rum.
Yar.
This one particular though, the 5-year beef from Barbados, which is I'm partial to Barbados rums,
Yeah.
especially for just general use.
Well, Barbadian rums, they say, are flavorful and smooth. And Barbados, of course, being, some say, the birthplace of rum, depending. Well, not so much the rum slop that they would make when they would distill sugarcane, but the idea of actually taking the rum slop and making it into rum
Ah,
came from Barbados, supposedly, back in the 1600s.
aye. Well, here be the Scarlet Raven back.
Oh,
with a
back
nice
here from the galley.
vessel
with-
for us to mix
Oh,
the
look
rum
at that there.
Very, very nice. Thank you
Very
kindly.
appropriate too.
So grog, be a very simple recipe. 1 part rum, 4 parts water.
Ooh.
So I'll be mixing in an ounce of rum here.
Yard, that'd be that. Just a port in there. Yeah, that's good.
It'll be about 1 ounce.
Yard, that's true.
Pour that in there.
Okay.
Now this water that I have, it'd be
Bilge
maybe early
water.
on in your vessel. It's not quite so green and funky, but
Oh,
it's
good.
nice.
It's actually brewed with pure Rocky Mountain spring water. We know what that is, right?
Panther pissed.
Bear piss.
Alright, there we go. 4 ounces of water.
Yeah. Okay.
So this would be more dilute and weak than we'd be used to here on the
Yeah,
Pirate Round.
true. Boy, I'll tell you what. Some of the things we've drunk, well, you know, it's quite powerful.
Yeah, nicely mixed. Alright, who wants to be brave and try out the grog here?
Well, there, Scarlet Raven wants it.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll have some. Pour me a
Well,
glass.
it's like water.
Yeah,
It's
I'm barely any color at all.
I think I've urinated that color before.
Yeah, quite. There's almost. Are you sure there's rum
Very
in there?
pale. Faint smell of rum, but not much. I don't smell any alcohol at all.
I'm smelling the alcohol. I'm not smelling any
Really?
rum. Yeah.
I don't smell much of
Right.
anything.
Nice.
Cheers.
All right. Well, on the Pirate Round. Cheers, folks.
Enjoy
Grog.
your grog.
1 part rum, 4 parts water.
Oh, that'd be very weak. You
Very
can
weak.
you can taste the rum, but it's
Yeah, it's there.
just kind of a flavor of rum.
Yeah. Not much to it, I would say. I'd be very
I guess if you
disappointed.
had bad water, it would definitely kill the bad water taste.
If you were used to getting a daily ration of rum, this would be a disappointment.
This would be a disappointment.
I'm disappointed in myself.
Yarr.
And you know what's strange? All that water, it tends to dilute the flavor, so I get more of the bitter.
Yeah, maybe that's
Yeah.
what I'm getting. I'm not getting the rum. I'm getting like the alcohol in there, kind of a bitter.
And I serve this with no ice because most of the time they would not have ice.
Well,
so,
no, there was no ice there.
so
Unless
even
they were
though-
on the Arctic expedition.
an Arctic expedition.
What do you think, Bill G? Are you used to that sort of thing?
I don't think he wants.
Oh, he
anything to do
turns
with
his
it.
tail away. Yep. Okay.
It'd be better than plain bilge water.
Don't
though.
don't
say-
being poop in my.
Oh, bilge.
Oh, he pooped in it.
I think if the options were this or a regular bilge water, I would take this over the bilge water.
Well, I would too, but I mean, if you were used to getting a good ration of rum, and they would get a pint of rum a day,
Aye.
if you would get, and then all of a sudden they would give you this grog, you'd be like,
So you can see why the word grog maybe wasn't uttered in the most
yeah,
appreciative of circumstances.
yes. And of course, you know, people are like, you know, where's me grog?
Aye.
And you're like, you're grog then. Wouldn't you rather have some actual rum?
Aye.
And for some reason, everyone has this idea that grog is actually full-strength rum.
Aye, you hear grog being, he can't handle his grog.
Yeah,
He's
you
always
can't
so
handle this
strong.
grog. Can't do this with the grog. And
Grog be very weak.
yeah, I think so too.
I mean, you calculate the alcohol by volume. This be 40%, and then you dilute it down fourfold, fivefold, Not that much. Maybe about as much as beer.
Yeah, be like drinking 3-2 beer.
Aye.
Which, unfortunately, here in the Rocky Mountain West, we've had experiences with.
Aye.
A terrible thing. Terrible. A blasphemy upon the world.
So pirates, they didn't have the same rules as the Navy did.
Oh, they did
So they could drink what they wanted to do. So what they drank was something called Bombo, or Bumbo.
Oh.
They had different names for the same drink, and it was a similar idea, but it was usually stronger with the alcohol. And because pirates could afford such things sometimes, if they were flush with money, they would add sugar and they would add spice, usually nutmeg, to their Bumbo. So I thought we would try mixing up a Bumbo.
Oh, here you go.
So let's go with the.
Have you poured all the foul bilge out of there now?
Aye, that'd be more or less empty.
Okay, good.
Just drips there. Finish that off. I don't want it to go to waste.
No.
Still have good rum in it.
Even a little bit.
Aye, here comes
Bill G. He's going to sniff it
he's
out.
more interested in the Bumbo, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, oh, yeah. Good job, Bill G. Good job.
So we'll start with, we'll go with an ounce and a half of rum here.
Oh, gee, where you go?
Pour that in the vessel. And to that, we will add one of the spices that was very common in those days, which was nutmeg.
Oh, look at that. You know, what is that there, Captain Turner? Is that what is that, like a...
That'd be a seed of a fruit.
Oh, a seed. Oh, I was looking at that. I thought it was a chunk of something.
No, that'd be a seed.
Okay.
That'd be a whole nutmeg, and that's what they look like. This be like the pit of a peach or something. Now, the nutmeg be a spice that we use that is very common today.
Uh-huh.
But another spice that was very common that came from the same fruit was called mace.
Well, eggnog.
Eggnog that uses a lot of nutmeg. That'd be true. But they would use a spice called mace very commonly too, and mace was a spice that had a very similar flavor, and it was a reddish-orange wrapping that would be on the nutmeg seed. And they would take the skin off and they would dry it, and that would be mace. And it would have a milder flavor, a little bit more savory flavor.
Oh.
For sweet flavorings, though, the nutmeg is really where it's at.
That I didn't know. I didn't know there was an extra spice on that.
Aye, that'd be true.
Oh.
So we'll grate a little bit of nutmeg in there, and I'm going to do that at this time so that the alcohol and the rum can kind of extract some of the flavors from the nutmeg, and we get the full punch of it.
Look at that there.
This be a nice zester. They would have had this be a more modern zester.
Well, they would have had their old rusty cutlash there to scrape it upon.
Chop and grind.
Right.
We'll grind a bit of nutmeg in there. Give it a little bit of nutmeg flavor. All right.
You smell it.
Let's see. Oh yeah, that smells nice.
Well, it does.
Oh, that's good. That's
That's
nutmeg, all right. It smells a bit like pine pitch, but much sweeter.
Yeah,
Isn't that
it's
funny how it
sweet
has
smell.
that smell? Yeah.
Always reminds me of eggnog.
Ah, do.
And then to that we will add a little sugar syrup. Now I brought a sugar cake. This be how they get their sugar most of the time back then. It would be a brownish color. This be raw demerara sugar from sugar cane.
Oh, look at that.
Pressed into
Pressed into a cake, and it would have sugar nips that they would cut off little pieces of the sugar to make whatever they were, put it in their tea or
Okay.
whatever.
I see there then.
To speed things up though, I have some that's already dissolved in water here. This be 1-to-1.
Oh, there you go.
Demerara, sugar, and water.
Ooh, looks like rum itself has
It
got a
does.
fine amber
Nice.
color to it.
It has a little bit of a rummish. Oops! I broke out the cork. I have to get out my knife and start carving at that.
The cork
see if
is
I can
dry.
get that out. That'd be a dry cork. Oh, now, come on out. Come on out. There it goes.
Good thing you've got that knife.
Aye, that's right. Every pirate has to have their.
That's for sure.
They're
Or a
nice.
pishel. So, that'd be 1-to-1 water, sugar, you see.
Aye,
Okay.
1-to-1 sugar and water.
Okay.
And we'll add about 1/4 of an ounce of that.
All right.
Doesn't take too much.
And so how much rum have we poured out now?
About 1.5 ounces.
Okay. And we've added no water, just
No
the
water
sugar.
yet.
Okay. We've added a bit of nutmeg, a bit of scrapings of nutmeg.
A bit of
And
sugar.
now we're adding liquefied sugar there.
Aye, that'd be right.
Hmm.
We'll go ahead and
Well,
stick
I don't
that
have a
on
cork.
there.
Well, I've got the cork. If we finish off this other bottle, you can have this cork.
We'll just set it up right and not spill it there.
Yar. Put
Now
it
to
over
that-
here on the side of the table there.
We'll add an equal portion of water to rum.
All right.
So we'll add about 1.5 ounces of that.
There you go.
So
Not
that's
that we
twice
drink
as
a
much.
lot of rum here on the Pirate Ground. You might have noticed that we spent a lot of time passing tea back and forth, and we're teetotalers here, teetotaling
That's right.
pirates. we don't drink a lot of rum. I would hate to give the impression that we're rum drinkers here on the Pirate Round.
No, we don't. We don't go for that here.
No, we don't go in for that sort of rough behavior here as pirates. No. Well, I did break the cork in half.
It split the cork.
Oh, it's too bad.
All right, we'll
All
swirl
right.
that around a bit, get it all mixed in.
Why?
Smell
You know, why does the
nice.
nutmeg to me smell like a bit like pine pitch?
I couldn't say.
Hmm.
All right, let's try some Bombo.
All right,
Just be
Bombo.
Pirate Bombo.
There you go.
That have a bit more color to it.
A bit.
A little bit.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Now you can see a lot of little things
Little
in
bits of
it. Sugar or something.
that'd be the nutmeg.
A bit
Oh,
of
I think
nutmeg.
that'd be the nutmeg in there. Yeah. Look at that.
Now it doesn't have the nutmeg smell to it.
Oh, we do.
Well, it has a little bit of the rum woodiness to it.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the woodiness. that I'm
Right, could be the
getting.
woodiness.
All right.
Okay. Well,
Cheers.
cheers to you, folks.
Yar har.
Thank you.
Yar.
Yar har.
Oh,
Now that's smooth.
I could see drinking that as a pirate.
Boy, that's nice. Boy, folks,
You
that's
get the
nice.
full flavor of rum.
You get
You
the
do.
nutmeg too.
And the
the
nutmeg-
nutmeg just kicks.
And
Just
it's not
Oh.
like overly sweet.
no.
Oh, my
But the
goodness,
sweetness
that's
makes
nice.
the rum just it.
Oh,
That
that's
is quite
nice.
tasty.
That is tasty. Oh my goodness, that's good. You know, that's uncomplicated, and it's very good.
That's
Yeah.
a very good drink.
Yes, that is.
Wow, that is a good.
I'm surprised that's not more popular these days. That'd be a very tasty drink.
It is. And it's very simple.
Very simple to make, but I get the rum, I get the spice.
Mm-hmm.
I bet that would be so good hot.
Oh, that would be good.
Kind of like a hot spiced drink there when it's very cold, and you're snuggled up on the couch with your significant other.
You know,
Now,
that'd
a
be-
lot of ways, the way they would warm things up like this, and they did this with mead, it was called mold. And what they would do is they'd take the hot poker, stick it in the fire and warm it up, and then stick it in.
Yeah,
and that
to
would
warm it up.
Yeah, they would make a
It was
thing
called,
Well, it's called
mold.
flip. They made a thing called flip, where they had a glass and they had an iron rod, and it's where the term "flipped out" comes from, because people would not understand that flip had quite a bit of rum in it, and milk and beer, and they would in stout actually beer stout, and they would heat it up
Something to
hot,
try and make some,
and they would guzzle it down, and before they knew it, they were out of their heads, swinging, crazy roaring drunk.
And nowadays you would have
flipped
a
out.
hot toddy or even a hot buttered rum, which would be
Right.
the same as this basically,
With a-
a bit of butter
Butter in there.
mixed in, give it a little richness.
Have you tried that, Captain Turner,
Oh,
with
I
some
have.
butter in there?
I have.
Is it good?
It's very good.
You know, we have
It is
butter.
very good.
Well,
It's salted, but it's
Maybe
butter.
do a holiday episode with that buttered rum.
Yeah.
oh, that'd be a good thing to do.
I think we'll do that. Mark that down. Captain in your logbook there. Hot buttered rum. That'll be an episode in the future.
And you know, pirates, if they had fruit juice, they would mix that in too, because the sour of a little bit of lime juice would balance the flavor of sugar. But then you're getting into the territory of another drink, which we'll try here in a minute. But I thought, while we were at it, we would try some modern day incarnations of Bombo.
Yeah. So right here we've got the new sort of modern day bamboo.
Bamboo,
We've
which-
done an episode of bamboo, have we?
Right.
Scottish Raven.
It was one of the first reviews we did.
And so this is bamboo, a rum that we're quite fond of. And this bamboo, we're actually credited with introducing bamboo to Colorado.
That's right.
Yeah, because without us folks here in Colorado, you'd have no bamboo.
And it'd be spiced the same as the pirate bamboo.
True. But you know, there's not much nutmeg in this. There's,
No,
not
much
it's
nutmeg.
mainly
That's
the
more
banana.
fruit.
And it
the
doesn't
fruit.
have as much water in it as
True.
this Bombo has.
So we'll pour our to bit.
This would be, I think, 40%, so this would be full strength rum.
It's not 40. It's
Is
It's
Less than
like
that?
30 something.
yeah, it's 30 something.
So it's a little bit more dilute, but
Yeah,
not,
it's a bit.
not as much as what we made.
No, they put
I think
a
you-
bit in there though.
And it has a bit of sugar, you can tell.
It
You
does,
know I
it's
love
sweet.
the bamboo. If you watched the live rum, you can
Rumathon.
tell we have a lot
Live
of bamboo.
rumathon.
And you know, we're quite happy every time we go to one of our favorite places and we see the bamboo is sitting there,
Yeah.
and it's not, clear full that that they've sold some, because it sells quite
Oh, it
Yar.
does. Yar
Quite
har.
well.
Yar
Yar
har.
BUMBU bamboo.
That'd be very smooth too, and a nice. I always like the banana caramel flavor.
Yeah, we gave Captain Turner a bottle of that over the holidays last year.
So I was thinking we could try this. This is popular in Jamaica. This isn't marketed as a bamboo, but it essentially is being watered down to 20%, 22% alcohol by volume. It's essentially the same as what we mixed for our Bombo. It's got spice and a bit of sugar in it. So
And what's that called there?
that'd be called cockspur.
Cockspur. Okay.
And it's not that expensive. I think I paid 15 to 20 coin for this bottle here. This not terribly expensive, which you would hope for because it's already not the strongest rum around.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought it'd be interesting to try it out and just compare it to what we've already had with our other Bombos.
You know, it doesn't have much of a color when you look at it.
No,
but
not
I
much.
imagine
You can
it's
see
watered
that
down
up.
quite a bit.
But you know, it smells similar to me to the Bombo that we just tried, the Bombo brand.
It does have a fruity smell to it.
Fruity and spice. I smell nutmeg and a little bit of cinnamon, I think, and allspice.
Oh, yeah, I do smell that. Definitely. Definitely nutmeg and cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, well,
Yar.
folks. Let's
Yar.
have some cockspur.
Yar.
Okay.
Oh, I taste the spice a lot more too.
Taste the spice.
Taste the spice, yes.
Not much to it.
It's drier.
Drier, not
Yeah.
terribly sweet.
You sure there's booze in that?
There's a flavor in there.
22% booze. It's really smooth.
Yeah, that's interesting,
There's
really.
a flavor in there I'm getting.
Oh, there's definitely a flavor. I mean,
It's almost like leather, but it's not leather.
well, it's definitely spiced.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of interesting spices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely very mellow.
So that is essentially a Bombo. You can tell it tasted a little less nutmeg and a little more complex spices, but very similar to the Bombo that we've made.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know
Little
right
less
here
sweet.
now. Let me have my far-seeing glass. There's an interesting little tail on the back of this bottle.
Well, that'd be good to read.
Yeah, so let's see here. Cockspur Spiced. Barbados is the home of the famous Cockspur brand and is generally regarded as the birthplace of rum. With its proud and colorful rooster icon, Cockspur rum has been an integral part of island life since 1884. Cockspur Spiced is a blend of specially crafted Barbados rum and carefully prepared spices formulated to enhance its savory flavors, with the spice notes traditionally found in many Caribbean drinks. Enjoy Cockspur Spiced straight up, on the rocks, or with your favorite mixer. Strut your stuff responsibly, it says.
No, I don't think I'd mix that with a mixer. Maybe
Yeah,
a
I
little
wouldn't-
lime juice or something, but you wouldn't want to add a mixer. It'd be too sweet.
Yeah, I don't. What kind of a mixer would you put with that? I don't know.
Right.
Tonic water, maybe, but that would
Maybe.
water it down even more.
I mean, I guess it would be okay in something like Coke, but
No,
I think it's so easy and smooth as it is.
I wouldn't put it in Coke.
There's no point.
Yeah, it's already mellowed.
At 22% alcohol by volume.
Yeah, it's sort of like a.
Yeah, it's not very strong at all.
It's like a liqueur, but not quite as sweet.
Not as sweet as liqueur.
I wouldn't mix it with anything. I would drink it straight.
I maybe with ice, but it's pretty easy to go just as it is.
Yeah, you know.
Cockspur. Cockspur Spiced.
Now,
Established.
Captain Turner, have you had it hot?
1884.
I have never tried it hot.
It'd be interesting. It's
It would
what,
be
it's
interesting.
what my father always says about sake. And that my father being had spent a bit of time in Japan there. He said that sake was always so much better hot than it was cold.
Oh,
He said that it warmed you up and it had a very different flavor when it was hot than when it was cold.
Savory notes.
And you know, he even had a bottle of sake that he had found, and every once in a while my father would he had a little sake set, which is a little bottle, and then 2 little glasses, and he would heat it up, and he would pour it out hot, and he never let us have any of it, but he would drink it.
No, I've never had sake any other way than hot, so I couldn't tell you whether it's better hot than cold, but I think it would be.
Yeah. I think this would be actually maybe a little better hot.
It might be.
Yeah, I think you'd get more of the flavors.
Because it's not terribly strong.
It's not.
It would withstand the heat quite well.
What do you think, Scarlet Raven?
It's not a bad Bombo. It's like I said, it's dry. It's not sweet.
Right.
It's got a funny flavor though. Like I said, it's almost like leather, but that's the spices.
I think that'd be the pot stilled rum.
It could be,
The
yeah,
nature
it
of
could
the
be.
pot stilled rum, you get a lot of those really funky flavors
Yeah.
mixed in with it.
But it's not bad, you know.
Yeah, they don't.
Having drink many water out of a Boda bag, you know.
Yeah, I know.
In the deserts.
Old barrels of wooden
Yeah.
stored water, you get some interesting flavors in there.
Now the
So-
the pot stilled rum there, Captain Turner.
Right.
Now, is it that when they do it, is that the first still?
So
So it's still got the funkiness to it.
the pot stilled is how they would have done it in olden days, in the pirate
Okay.
days. Most of the rum, all of the rum that you got would have been pot stilled.
Okay.
Pot or kettle, it would have been the same thing. Which is you put the mash and you mix it with water and you boil it, and then at a certain point you start getting liquid coming off of the still, and you wouldn't want to take the first stuff because it would be poison. I mean, that's methyl alcohol, and that would make you go blind.
True.
At a certain point, then you would start collecting it, and a lot of times you would have still a little bit of the methyl alcohol in it, and other things, esters and complicated chemicals, which would give it a lot of interesting flavors, and then you cut it off before you get too much water. And so all of those interesting ethers bring a lot of flavor. Nowadays, most of the rum that you get would be cheaper and easier to distill, and more pure is distilled with a column. And that has little paddles that separate the different layers, and so it's a lot easier to cut off just that ethyl alcohol that you want. So you lose a lot of flavor, but it gives you a less hangover, it's a little less rough, but a little less interesting as well.
And that's the thing, is we've talked about rum before here, where we've talked about, there's a couple of books we've got about rum, and they talk about scum. And the scum be the top part that they would, that the rum makers would give to their slaves. And the thing about the scum is the idea was that they were giving them the worst part of the rum, but they were actually giving them the best part.
Very nutritious.
It was very nutritious, and it had all the flavors in it. The rum that was left over was essentially white lightning. And they would ship it to England then for them to mix with other things. Whereas the slaves were enjoying this watered down sugary juice with an earthy flavor, and they would give them all they could drink. You know, and it was called scum. And of course that's where the modern term scum comes from. It's like, well, you're scum, buddy. You know, well, you're scum, you bastard. You're hanging around here. Take you and your scum bucket buddies with them. That kind of thing, you know. The thing is the scum was actually the good part of it, because that's where you get the complicated sort of flavors.
That'd be true.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Jamaican rums are very commonly pot distilled, and this tastes like it's got a little bit of pot distilled rum in it.
I think that's it.
The Pusser's rum has a bit of that in it. You can get those kind of funky flavors.
Yeah.
So the last one I thought we'd try, we talked about a bit about how if they had lime juice, they would mix it in, and at that point, what you essentially have is a punch. And punch was a drink that was very popular in colonial early America.
True.
In fact, a lot of the people who are running for office, if you're talking about politicians and so forth, they would bribe their constituents with punch or with a Bombo. And the ingredients that would go into a punch would be very expensive. You'd have sugar and spices and rum and fresh citrus juice, and all of those things were commodities. And so if you were bribing people with that, you were demonstrating your wealth and your value.
True. That's quite true.
That would be interesting to try a punch as well.
Well, sure.
Now you also heard the term once in a while of pirate punch.
Pirate punch.
Pirate punch, yeah.
Now we in the pirate ground, you know, the captain and I have it's a pirate punch that we like to drink. That we have called it Blackbeard's Piratey Revenge.
In honor
but
of Blackbeard.
you know, there's already a drink called Blackbeard, and Bartholomew Roberts has requested that we rename it Bartholomew Roberts Piratey Punch.
Well, we'll call it that from now.
You know, what we like to do is we like to take half a lime and juice it up and squeeze it in. I like a little bit of pulp in mine. The captain hates it in his. And then we take 4 shots of a blackberry pomegranate juice. Usually the Arcane Nutzen is one of our favorites.
True.
That's probably the easiest one for us to get. It's getting harder and harder for us to get the blackberry pomegranate juice. And then we take 2 shots of our favorite rum. Usually pirate rum is one of our favorite, but we found that Baku makes a really good.
Oh, it does. Baku is a good one.
The Baku, which we'll do a review on.
True.
Some of the other ones sometime. And then 4 to 5 shots of Canadian dried ginger ale. Mix that up with some ice, and it is so smooth. It just goes down fantastic. If you watched one of our live ones here recently out on the fire, that's what the captain and I were drinking. Was Bartholomew Roberts Piratey Punch.
It'd be a tasty punch. I've had it before.
Yes.
Well, so let's proceed here with our punch.
So the punch of old, they actually had a rhyme, and the rhyme would tell you the recipe. It would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 of sour, 2 of sweet, 3 of strong, and 4 of weak. So that'd be 1 of sour would be your lime or lemon, whatever your sour citrus be. 2 of sweet be 2 parts sugar.
Okay.
3 of strong, that'd be your rum, or sometimes they would use, a bourbon, or Applejack was very popular in colonial America.
True.
And 4 of weak would be water or apple juice or something like that. Now I find that recipe for me is a bit too sweet. I don't like it that sweet, so I usually do 1 of sour, 1 of weak, or 1 of sweet, 3 of strong and 4 of weak. So
there you go.
We've got some lime juice here, right, Scarlet Raven?
We do have fresh squeezed lime juice.
Fresh squeeze, which would be the only way to do it. If you're using canned, it's going to impart quite a flavor to your beverage that's not quite as good. So we'll do it. We'll start with half an ounce there.
There you
so
go.
We're not doing a full ounce there. Half of that. So 1 part is half of sour, and
So we're doing half instead of the 4.
half.
Okay.
And we'll do
So instead of the
sweet,
1,
where would be my sugar
3,
syrup here?
and
Oh, right here.
Oh, there we go.
4, we're doing
Would
half.
this be the Captain Turner's opioid distillate?
half of the sour, half of the sugar,
Aye.
1.5 of
Of
the strong, and 2 of
2 of
the water.
So we'll use another half an ounce or so of the sugar syrup here.
But if you were going to do half of the original recipe, it'd be half of sour, 1 of sugar, 1.5 again of the rum, and then 2 of the water.
There we go. And I'm only doing this because we've had a few other drinks and I don't want...
And we'll probably have a few more.
No, we've not had no drink.
And then we'll do 1.5.
Oh boy, that's sweet.
Aye, that'd be sugar syrup. One part
That's like
sugar, 1
maple
part water.
syrup.
Now, how did you make that sugar? That's what sugar in Neureal, isn't it?
It's raw sugar. It'd be just raw demerara sugar, which has not been bleached yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually when you get brown sugar, that's sugar that's been bleached and then had molasses added back to it.
No, that's true.
So we'll do 1.5 ounces for that. So that'd be 3 parts of strong.
Now, folks, if you've read a lot of books that were written there in the 1800s and 1700s and so, some by the famous authors and some by not so famous, you'll know that they used terms back then to describe punch. And they would say about someone, if he was a fine fellow, they'd say he's a real rum punch. Meaning that, of course, he was good to have around and he was fun to be around. And he always had a good time with him. And they would say, well, he's a real rum fellow. Meaning that he was a real fine fellow to be around. And consequently, another way to look at it is that during that time period then, it was actually, drinking rum punch like this was considered a very pleasurable experience. And strangely enough,
Parties and holidays, a lot of times.
yes, around holidays and the sort. And also an interesting thing is, you might want to put your hands over your children's ears right now. But they often compared a rum punch to having sexual intercourse with women, and they would say she's a real rum punch.
Oh.
And because it was so pleasurable to drink this rum punch, so we're going to pass. Pull your hands off your children's ears now, and so we can go
I
ahead.
don't
and
want you to drink it all there.
Aye, I'm spilling a bit here.
Oh, don't worry about it. This table's seen blood, mud, beer, you name it. Don't worry about it. Pour it on out.
Bill G.
That'd be the easiest to pour out of with a round.
It's not easy.
Oh, pour it in
It's
that
dripping
instead.
everywhere, but that's all right.
There we go. That'd be a bit easier.
Oh,
Would
smell
you like it a
that.
bit more? Would like a bit more punch.
I don't mind if I do myself.
Give you a bit more punch there.
Bill G.
Keep that rat away from our drinks.
You've been drinking all your punch. All right.
Boy. All right now, folks. Rum punch. Here.
One punch. Cheers.
Ah, cheers,
Just
David.
imagine to get a little bit away from Bill G. He knows what that is.
That'd be very palatable.
Really on the sour side, though.
A bit on the sour.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if they'd use...
They would use 2 parts sweet instead of 1, so it wouldn't be quite as sour. It'd be more sweet.
Okay.
But like I say, for me, I like it a bit more sour than sweet. But
Well, I do too.
Aye.
I don't taste the rum in that at all.
Not much. It's got a bit of rum flavor.
Just a little bit of the burn, but it's not over the top.
So people use variations these days, and you can
Wow.
use...
Man, I could see going to, a party and dancing and drinking.
You would hardly know you were drinking
You'd
rum.
be,
I
you'd
know.
be slamming that left and right.
You could use equal parts rum and water, and it would be just as good. But
Can you
maybe
say,
you'd taste the rum a little
Holy
bit more.
cow.
Oh, it was a great time. It was a real rum punch time we had.
rum
You know,
punch.
you can say that because, goodness, it's great.
It is.
When
Well,
you
there was
consider
also
what
the term
people were
punch
used
drunk.
to drinking. Well, punch drunk.
Aye, that's
Punch
right.
drunk, there's another one, yeah.
If you were in 1700s colonial America and you went to a party and they were serving you this, it'd be like nothing else you'd tasted. This
Yes,
really-
it'd be
this-
fantastic.
You see that in the movies. People, in the dances and stuff, going and filling the cups full of punch.
Oh, yeah,
pouring
it down.
and it would be, it wasn't like punch that
Quite tasty.
that people have today, which is
No.
just a fruit juice of Hawaiian punch or whatever. It was,
you don't want to use
No,
wine.
it was a lot of alcohol in it.
That'd be quite tasty. And this also be good hot.
Oh, I bet.
And
I
you
bet
know,
that's good.
you also get your lime in there, which is good against the scurvy.
for scurvy,
Which,
yeah.
if you
They
saw an
didn't know.
episode,
Right, you have an episode about that.
right?
They didn't know that was the case. So,
Yeah.
But the Pirates of the Caribbean would very often have their lime because they
Right.
had limes growing. People would plant their wild limes, which would be a little different than the Persian limes we're used to. They would be
True.
the smaller lime, the key limes.
Right.
But they were planted on the islands, and so you could just collect them, and it would add flavor to the water and make things tastier. But it would also prevent scurvy.
Right, which we talked about in that episode of scurvy. The reason that pirates weren't affected so much by scurvy is pirates tend to hang closer to the shores.
They weren't at sea for
Right,
quite
they,
as long.
no, they weren't
And
out to seas for
they enjoyed
weeks and
fresh
weeks and weeks and
victuals that
months.
they
The only
would
times-
capture from people's
right,
ships.
and the only times they would do that would be when they were sailing across to the round.
Right.
But then they would hit Africa and bouncing down around the coast of Africa, resupplying and getting food and hunting.
That's
so
true.
they weren't affected by the scurvy like the navies, the English and the French and the Spanish and the Dutch. The Dutch weren't as much because the Dutch used sauerkraut.
Yeah, it's in.
We have a friend that wanted to come on and do some sauerkraut, but the captain and I hate sauerkraut.
I
And
didn't want to
sauerkraut
eat it
was
at all.
something that the English tried to introduce, and the common crew hated it. They wouldn't touch it. The captaincy and the officers, would eat it, trying to get their crew to eat it, and the crew, no. So when our friend, who is quite the chef, wanted to do an episode about pirate food and was talking sauerkraut, we're like, no, you are not coming on and
Now,
giving
Lady
us
Frost,
that.
actually, who we've had on here before, she's actually quite fond of sauerkraut, but I don't care for it myself.
You've got to have that sort of flavor to it. I mean, my father loved it. My mother hated
My
it.
mother loved it. My grandfather was originally from his family was from Germany, so he grew up on it. But we digress. But
Well,
sauerkraut was a great
I mean,
staver.
that's
off
true.
of,
I mean,
Scurvy guy.
scurvy.
That's true.
Well, I mean, my mother's Czech, and you would think that she would love to have sauerkraut because they made the crap, but she don't like it. My father, not even remotely, but he loved to eat it, and I never understood it. The smell when you bust open a jar of it, it just run you out of the house.
Yes.
That sour cabbage just they smell like
Yeah, whereas my
sewer.
family grew up with sauerkraut and wieners and sausages and
Shice.
oh my god,
Terrible.
I would starve that day.
I would
It's
never
like, I would
touch
not
it.
touch that stuff. But
Oh.
anyway, like I said, we digress. And
Well,
Well,
you
those
know,
be some piratey
but,
beverages.
so, folks, now, what be your favorite of the ones we've had?
I actually like the punch.
I agree.
I
The
do
punch
too.
would be the best, and it'd be
Yeah.
the most expensive. So you can see why the aristocrats would be so fond of it. They would make big bowls and have
Oh,
these huge
sure.
parties.
So, Captain
They'd
Turner,
spend a fortune on
I'd be
their
thinking
punch.
if you be having your party on your ship this year
Aye.
at the holidays, that maybe some pirate punch should be in the mix there
Yeah,
for
that
some of
might
the
not be a
pirate
bad
friends,
idea.
like Captain Sangre. He might appreciate that than some of the others.
He'd only like it if we mixed Guinness with it, though.
Oh, he does like his Guinness.
You know, and the thing about all celebrations aboard ships and aboard places usually started around a big bowl of punch
That's right.
that they would make, and they would pass it about rum, all
And
sorts
people
of
have
lime
their own
sugars.
dipping ladle. They would dip and they would drink out of their ladle.
Yes, and they would have like a ladle with forsaking the glass itself. Just grab a ladle and just pour it down.
I've got my own mug, which has got me pirate there, which I carry on me everywhere I go.
And there's many documentations, if you read any pirate books, about regular captains of ships complaining about being taken over by pirates, and the pirates trying to decide exactly how to split the cargo of a captured vessel, and the pirate and the ship captains, merchant captains saying, it was total chaos. They brought all the pirates together. They started their discussion with a giant round of punch, and after a while they were so insensible as to be that they were throwing half of my goods overboard because they didn't want any of my other things, but they took what they only wanted, they threw the rest overboard, but finished off the bowl of punch. There was much music and dancing and fun times to be had by the pirates, but not by the merchant captains.
And
by
it is
any
said
means.
that George Washington himself made several hundred gallons worth of punch when he was running for office and bribed his constituents. So,
Well, there you go. I mean, as
cannot argue with that.
we were talking about before, I don't know if I should bring this up, but wouldn't you rather go to church and where they would serve you a giant bowl of punch there sitting in church?
That'd be a fine sacrament.
Or
Now
it'd
they
be a
give
fine
you,
sacrament.
now I think they give you coffee and donuts.
Coffee and donuts, no. Why don't they give you a rum or punch, you know, and then
They have more faces in their pews.
yeah, some fanciful stories and you know, perhaps an axe throwing contest would help bringing people into the church, things like that. But we digress, you know. Here, raw and unfiltered on the Pirate Round is how we always like things.
We'd be unreligious pirates here.
So
Sacrilegious pirates?
sacrilegious. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Pirate Drinks, brought to you by our friend Captain Turner. And I hope you like this episode because we've got all sorts of pirate drinks and pirate history, pirate lore that we're talking about. And we say to you, folks, you know what? Always be true to yourself. Always be true to your family and your friends. Don't let anyone grind you under their boot heel because you know what? You be a pirate. And you don't have to take shite from no one. And if anyone tries to give it to you, well, you hand it back to them tenfold. And so we say to you now, thank you so much. Stab that subscribe button with your rusty cutlash, and we say,
Or shoot it with your
flintlock, and we say to you now,
Or throw a porting axe at it, whatever. Yar har.